Dan Dove, founder, director of Global Bartending, and very, very proud co-founder of the wonderful Pinnacle Guide.
And my name's Hannah Sharman-Cox. I'm also co-founder of the Pinnacle Guide, and with Siobhan, I'm cutting in on her intro already. Co-founder of London Cocktail Week.
See that? Yep, Siobhan Payne. So I've got the same job title as Hannah. So yeah, the three of us are co-founders of the Pinnacle Guide. We've actually worked together, the three of us, for more than 10 years, I would say.
Much more.
On London Cocktail Week and other projects. So it's nice. We're business partners, but also we're really good friends outside. So it's quite lovely.
So, as I said, I guess personally I've been in the industry for 21 years now, and so I've spent my whole working career in the bar industry. I don't really know anything else. I sort of did a bit of work when I was younger with my dad's business in construction, so I understood sort of design and construction from a very young age, but spent all my working career in bars. I grew up in Spain and started bartender, bar manager in some wonderful cocktail bars in Spain, and then chose to come back in my early 20s back to London, and have spent the last 15 years or so working for Diageo Reserve and running a wonderful competition called World Class globally. Left 6 years ago, opened up an agency called Global Bartending, which is the first agency in the world to manage some of the best bartending and hospitality talent around the world, and a full marketing package that we offer for luxury drink brands. And then through the middle of all of that, through the midst of getting to where I am personally, myself and the girls have been working together for over 10 years through London Cocktail Week, but on many other projects. And she will also work very closely with Global Bartending specifically, and vice versa. We collaborate continuously, and it was actually the girls that approached me on the Pinnacle Guide 2 or 3 years ago.
So our story is, as Dan said, it's completely intertwined together. But for me personally, I started in the industry back in 2002 at a bar called Milk and Honey for the opening of that, the London site of that. It was just as cocktails were getting exciting again in London. So kind of, to put a year on it, probably 97, like some of those big, like stellar cocktail bars opened. But 5 years after that was the first year of Milk and Honey. So I was so fortunate. My job was truly just to answer the phone. Just to be very clear, I was certainly not a bartender, but I was very, very fortunate to be opening team with them, which just meant that we met everybody. So Sasha was there for opening, Dale DeGroff became our director of drinks. These are terribly name-droppy industry names, but it was an amazing alumni to be part of. From there, I went to work for a chap called Simon Difford, and through that is how Siobhan and I met. And while we were there, we started the festival, London Cocktail Week, back in 2010.
So yeah, as Hannah said, we met whilst working for a chap called Simon Difford, who was still good pals with. Before that, I was in PR for drinks brands, and whilst I loved the drinks industry and the drinks brand side of things, I really didn't warm to a job in PR. I think it's so difficult, and I think the people that do it are absolute geniuses. So, it wasn't for me, but I did know I liked the drinks industry. I was doing PR for Rum Fest, which is Ian Burrell's rum festival, which runs around the same time as London Cocktail Week. Just my manager at the time was good friends with Simon and introduced us, and I went to work for him, and that's where I met Hannah. And Hannah and Simon had just started London Cocktail Week, so I was kind of in at the deep end on that. And alongside London Cocktail Week and the Pinnacle Guide, Hannah and I also run a consultancy called Hands London, which is just kind of strategy for drinks brands and bars and lots of different things.
So the Pinnacle Guide is something that we certainly, and lots of other people, have had the idea for. In a nutshell, elevator pitch. It's Michelin for drinks, Michelin for bars. That's kind of the end of the elevator pitch, because actually as we've started working on it, there's so many differences and there's so many things that we have found that we've had to do differently, of course. But the ultimate is 1, 2, and 3 stars. In our case, it's 1, 2, and 3 pins for the best bars in the world. Michelin is like this unbelievable business. It's amazing, and it's gone into the vernacular across so many countries. Everybody, the minute you say something's Michelin starred, you understand immediately that it's unbelievable quality, and that just didn't exist in the bar industry, which felt like a real shame. As we say, so many people came out of the woodwork and said, "Oh yeah, we thought of that." And we're like, yeah, we all thought of it, but come on, you've got to get it done. So it was about 5-6 years that Siobhan and I were noodling over it. Is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, not in any depth, just in kind of a like, we should do that. I wonder how we could do it. I wonder how we could make it commercially viable. I wonder how this could be a thing. And then it was actually during the pandemic, we had a bit more time basically, and so put a little bit more of our mind to it, and that's when we came to Dan, because we were already working with him through global bartending. So we came to him to kind of let him know that we were doing it, hear his thoughts, and he straight away said, let me be part of this. We straight away were like, yes, please.
I remember the moment. It was a Wednesday afternoon. You called me, and I was in mid-project during. I think we was doing a lot of digital content during COVID for our talent, and I saw you guys call me, and they said, and they literally gave me the 1 minute of "we're going to do it," and I knew what they meant by it, and I was like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
I'm in, and it was a quick response, because I think because we're all so embedded in the drinks industry, we sort of understand, and especially through COVID, as we knew that the hardship the hospitality industry was going through, and we thought coming out of COVID it would be a fantastic message to send the global drinks industry to really award those bars that maybe haven't had the exposure that they had either pre-COVID, during, and moving forward. And so I think through all of our businesses and through the work that we've done and still do, I think it's all sort of umbrellaed by the fact that we just want to raise the hospitality industry, and so I think
we're also bar agnostic, it's worth saying.
Yeah.
So none of us have a bar, none of us, that's kind of, while we all work in the drinks industry, we don't necessarily work in the bar industry, and I think that's actually a real strength for us, that we're not coming at it with any agenda other than just want it to be the best, and want it to be the best example to put forward so people know where's great.
And I think our combined experience, obviously Hannah and I work for London Cocktail Week, we deal with hundreds and hundreds of bars every year, we kind of are used to working at scale, and then Dan with his experience working on world class and that side of things, I think between us the kind of our creative minds fit together really well. So it felt right to launch when we did. But when we launched, we decided that it didn't feel right or appropriate that 3 people would make the decisions that were so important, because having a Michelin style recognition system for the drinks industry is actually a really big deal, and it's important that we get it 100% right first time, because in our heads we're like, we've only got one chance. So what we did when we launched in early 2022 was our official launch, but we only launched to other people in the drinks industry. So we had an announcement over Zoom, actually 4 announcements over Zoom. We announced to about 600 people across the day, and we made them all sign NDAs, so no one knew what was coming when they were coming into the announcement. But what that announcement started was what we called the consultancy phase, and that has been 18 months of us talking to people officially through roundtables. So we've videoed Zoom conversations with industry leaders talking about different aspects of the Pinnacle Guide and how we might assess the world's best bars. But also one-on-one, we've had an open door policy. We've travelled the world to speak to bars and bar owners to find out what the best way of doing this is. Because we knew, didn't we? But we really wanted to, we didn't want to be complacent, to think that what we knew was definitely right.
And also to ask what's missing, because there's some really unbelievable award bodies out there that we're very, very involved with and are dear friends of ours, and we really appreciate the work that they do. But there's probably space for something else. Just actually, more than anything, where bars don't compete against each other necessarily quite so much to take a top spot or a single prize. This is a limitless system. So we don't know how many pins will be awarded when we first announce, and going forward, we have no idea because we don't know who's going to apply. And that's the biggest difference out of this whole consultancy phase. The thing that came up was that rather than it be somebody who decides for you, who makes that shortlist, the onus is on the bar to submit themselves forward to be judged in this system, which doesn't happen anywhere with any others, we believe. So if you think your operation is great, please apply. That's the message, and it doesn't matter where you are. And that's something that we've found super important with all the people we've spoken to. And we've spoken to people in countries that we've never visited. And the one good thing that came out of lockdown is that you can do that because everybody works on Zoom. So we've spoken with people that we didn't know before the process in countries that we've never visited and asked them what they want from this. So it's been joyous, actually, is what it's been, because it's been the most unbelievable chance to connect with people.
Joyous and hard.
Joyous and hard.
Not an easy. I think our dream as well, out of having bars self-nominate, is that we're going to expose so many bars that have never had the light of day.
Yeah.
And we've definitely experienced that over our individual 20 years of traveling the world, and been lucky enough to visit some amazing bars, some of them well on the grid and some of them off the grid. And it often happens where we come across these little gems as we travel, to think, why haven't they ever got any exposure on a global lens or even within their own country? And that sometimes is down to not investing in PR or not investing in great photography, or not understanding how the internet works properly, or there may be some really basic fundamentals that they either choose not to do, or they don't potentially have the capabilities to do so, and are maybe not in that global bar industry network. And so what we hope is that the Pinnacle Guide will absolutely do that for them, and we work alongside them to help build their businesses.
So in the same way that Michelin is 1, 2 and 3 being unbelievable, 1 being also unbelievable, but slightly less so, we'll be using that system. So it'll be 1, 2 and 3 pins. As Hannah mentioned earlier, a bar will have to apply in the first instance. So that's the first stage. And that application process is in depth, very, very in depth. It's going to take huge time investment for the bar to even be considered. But what was important to us, and what was a really big thing that came out of the consultancy phase, is that when judging excellence in bars, it's important to look behind the scenes. There's obviously the delicious drinks, the beautiful atmosphere, the hospitality, and that's all stuff that you can assess front of house, someone going in. But there's actually quite a lot happening behind the scenes. So how